For many students, the thought of reading, much less annotating, a work of poetry sounds daunting, boring, and even downright confusing. Some may even want to pull their hair out or scream into the void. They think, why must I analyze it? Can't the poets just say what they mean? Well, poetry allows us to communicate our thoughts and emotions in an interesting way, and as a result, it feels more intimate than prose. Annotating poems also improves our metacognition, making us better readers and learners.
You'll need your poem, a writing utensil, and a highlighter. Make sure to create a key like the one below. Here's an overview of the 6 key steps to efficiently annotating a poem. The first is to read the poem before annotating. The second step is to ask any questions on what's confusing and no obvious elements within the poem. The third step is to answer questions on some overarching elements, such as the speaker's tone and the theme of the poem. Step 4 is to identify the poem's rhyme scheme, and Step 5 is to identify figurative language or not yet mentioned characteristics of the poem. The first thing you want to do is read the poem. This allows you to get an overall impression of it before dissecting the details of it and ultimately consider what it might mean and how it makes you feel. The second step is to ask yourself questions about the reading, such as the meaning of words and no obvious elements of the poem. As you read your poem, ask questions about what you don't understand, whether it's a word you don't know or the author's intent. Then take notes of obvious elements within the poem. In How Do I Love Thee, Barrett Browning uses flowery, romantic diction. Now on to Step 3. You'll answer some basic questions on overarching elements such as, who is the speaker? What is the tone of the poem? What's the theme? What is the setting if there is one? You must consider the significance of these elements in relation to the poem. For How Do I Love Thee, the speaker is the author, speaking to her husband, Robert Browning. Her tone is sincere and loving as she professes how deep her love for him goes. The theme, of course, is love, and there is no setting. Step 4 is to identify the rhyme scheme. It is important to identify the rhyme scheme of a poem and determine how it adds to the content of the poem, because rhyme schemes are integral to poetry. The rhyme scheme creates balance, relieves tension, and builds unity of sound and sense, which communicates the idea of the poem effectively. Think to yourself, does the rhyme scheme follow a certain form, such as a haiku or villanelle, which would make it formal? Or is it free verse, which would make it informal? In Barrett Browning's poem, the rhyme scheme is a traditional Petrarchan sonnet, which makes the language sound beautiful and balanced, just like the speaker's love for her husband. Step 5 is identifying figurative language and sound devices within the poem. This step is important because figurative language and sound devices create life within the poem. Think about it. They add dimension to poetry, allowing the speaker to say things with more flair and color, which in turn allows the audience or reader to see and hear the things the speaker sees and hears. Remember that everything an author does within a poem is intentional. Each word, each rhyme scheme, and each use of figurative language has a function. As you can see, Barrett Browning has included various examples of figurative language within How Do I Love Thee, such as anaphora, in which she repeats the phrase, I love thee, at the beginning of sentences to emphasize just how much she loves her husband. She even includes imagery in which we can see her happiness. She even compares her love for her husband to the determination soldiers have for fighting for what is right, which would be an example of a simile.
See, that wasn't as bad as you thought it'd be, right? Now find a poem, annotate it, and put these new skills to use. You've got this.